No, that's a very dangerous thing.
Very.
Which part of this is
Very.
it? These are front planes.
Front planes, yeah.
Oh,
We'll
your
deal
man's
with that.
hometown.
Godwin.
Let me give you a couple of headlines here. Citi Business News, CitiNewsNews.com. They threatened to torture me if I didn't pay 20,000 cedis. Victim of police extortion. Also, man arrested for killing 50-year-old cousin who refused to marry him. And Akufo-Addo comments on burning of excavators unfortunate according to small-scale miners. Meanwhile, in Port DCE, community members burn excavator, arrest 3 Galamsey operators. And then Minta Akando lambast health minister over lab scientists strike.
All right. The Daily Guide. 5 rubber cops cage. That's the story you were talking about. Video tour rebuts Arts Center allegation. You know, there were some allegations. Somebody claimed they heard him saying that it had been sold. He's saying that it's absolutely not true. Another long date for NAM1 trial. The Attorney General is refiling witness statements in the ex-SNIT boss case, and the Information Ministry outdoors amplified for young entrepreneurs.
Okay.
ABC News, no Galamsey behind my palace, or Chihine debunks claim.
So you make what?
Yeah, Charlie. I like his English, you know.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, you know.
He
Charlie, you have style,
was referring
man.
to the minister as Abu.
And then you have 2 months to remove your sirens. Henry Quarty backs at ministers, deputies, and others.
Even yesterday, somebody almost crashed. They were just coming, siren, without a dispatch rider.
Yeah, I think it should be a criminal offense. You don't advise people
You should make an example of 2 or 3.
Yes.
The rest will stop.
I mean, look, you want to get there first. Just leave home early. Case closed.
No, they are wiser than you.
We all do it. We
Why
set
you
off
can't
early
do
to
that? You didn't do that.
They drive them very
run you off, basically running us off the
They're
road.
so reckless. God, if you use the Kaswa Winneba Road,
weekend. Really?
it's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the moment you have a V8, and most of them are black in color, it means you are qualified to misbehave on the streets.
You know the worst part? You see 1 or 2 small cars following them.
Following them and then squeezing their face, you know, and then they'll squeeze their face as if they are national security people.
Let's get to other headlines.
Daily Statesman. $55 million Law Village project begins. Government employs social media tools to promote businesses. Coup plotters struggle with bail conditions. And Ghana's cocoa is unmatched. China can't outstrip us.
All right.
The rate at which China is copying, the rate at which they are copying, Charlie.
That story is interesting.
Let's not go to sleep.
At all.
Okay, Ghanaian Times. President woos investors, vows to protect foreign investments in automobile industry.
Okay.
Patients stranded as medical laboratory scientists lay down tools. And then Ochehine calls ban illegal mining for 1 year.
Shane is wild this morning.
The Informer. In the matter of Dufour and Amoabeng, Bank of Ghana's impunity disdains Parliament and obstructs the cause of justice. Fight against Galamsey. Akufo-Addo dares critics and challenges them to proceed to court if they are dissatisfied with the approach. Gird your loins. Speaker Bagbin tells MPs to brace themselves for hard work. And trouble in Ashanti region, as study reveals, Anopheles mosquito shows super resistance to insecticides.
Wow.
Yeah.
The new crusading guide. Land grab in East Legon. Ex-soldier accuses Errata boss of forcibly taking his land of 38 years. But Ebikusi Ankuma, who's the Errata boss, says he bought it from the Tabuasi family. And then Bedietu rubbishes claim that he sold the National Center for Culture. Among 4 weeks ago. People just sit in their corner, fabricate, drop it in the system, the thing will take its own life. By the time you even come and deny.
Somebody said, if you put that on me, even if I remove it, some will stick.
Can you imagine?
Anyway, let's continue with other headlines.
All right. The Herald. The Kuchito of Ablakwa blows alarm on Akufo-Addo's extravagance. Says his recent trip to France, Belgium, and South Africa with rented jet cost 2.8 million Ghana cedis. Attorney General gets full military protection. Other ministers are given police guards. Lawyers shred judges' conflicting ruling on Opuni Agongo trial. Those are the headlines on the front page of the Herald.
Ghanaian Chronicle. CID denies investigating national security. And then on page 3 it says KMA boss in hot waters, party juggernauts scramble for
There are about
position.
11 people who want the position of
And
chairman.
the Chronicle today has an interesting editorial. Says NDC must go back to the IPAC table.
Okay.
The Business and Financial Times, staying neutral under AFCFTA is not possible. The AGI is telling businesses you need to be part of this. Don't sit aloof, you may lose out. Why banks find it difficult to give loans? The FBN Bank CEO is explaining that. Only 10% of oil and gas businesses are insured locally, and Tor, Tema Oil Refinery, is on course to shake off its shackles by Q4.
Okay.
The Ghanaian publisher Adwoa Safo initiates moves to abolish tax on PAD. And MPs beg lab scientists to suspend strike with a nice picture of Dr. Nana Ayew Afriye.
Let me take you online. City Business News. Savannah charcoal ban. Government must highlight alternative sources of livelihood, according to an environmentalist. And then this story you read earlier will ensure VW's investment in Ghana yields results. This is the president. Let me go to my journal online. Akufo-Addo spent £345,000 on travel from May 16 to 25. Okujeto Ablakwa. Also, 401 soldiers deployed for phase 4 of Operation Halt Part 2. And then 35-year-old man in police custody for allegedly killing 50-year-old woman who refused to marry him. That's quite troubling. If you go to Star FM, the lead story, burning excavators illegal. This is Occupy Ghana. So the plot thickens. This issue has become quite controversial. Meanwhile, Otinyini to government, ban mining for a year for reforms. And then 5 police robbers charged for robbery remanded in police custody. So I'm interested in the police robbery story. I'm interested in the Galamsey Otinyini angle, and then other stories. So if you want to start with Otinyini.
Yes, let's start with him. He's calling for a 1-year ban on small-scale mining to allow for the proper regulation and streamlining of the mining industry. He says that shutting down the industry, which is plagued with complexities and disorderliness, for 1 year will allow the authorities to properly investigate those who have legitimate licenses for prospecting, reconnaissance, digging, and mining. In addition to that, such investigations will help us identify unlicensed mining companies and individuals whose actions are contributing to the needless depletion of our forest cover, the pollution of our water bodies, and the destruction of farmlands. He said, as it is now, we don't know who has a license for small-scale mining, who has a license for large-scale mining, and who has a middle-class mining license. We must publish the names of persons and companies which have been licensed properly so the public will know all of this. Now, he said this when the Minister of Lands and Resources, Mr. Samuel Abuji-Napo, paid a courtesy call on him at the Ofori-Penyufie in Chibi yesterday.
There's a lot of Galamsey stories. Umpoho DC community members burn excavators, arrest 3 Galamsey operators. This story is by Daisy Jacob. City Newsroom says the DC from Poho Azamensa on Thursday 27 May handed over 3 suspected illegal miners at Insuja to the Western Regional Police Command. According to the DC, they were mining on the banks of River Subri in the Poho district. The suspects include Francis Edu 42, Ahin Albert 27, Benjamin Odum 35. The DC told City News he mobilized local residents to arrest the 3 and that the perpetrators were more than 10 in number, but they only managed to catch 3. He said upon the instruction of Western Regional Minister, they burnt an excavator used by the miners and confiscated their Nissan Navara pickup together with other items.
So the impunity.
So,
Did you watch this? You see, the DC or one of the officials asked the guy, did you hear the instruction of the president? He said yes.
But still,
did you understand it? He said yes.
she's still.
And you are still doing it.
now the DC said they pick information about the leader of the team and will go after him. From investigations they did, we found out that the machines belonged to a man named Issa from Takwa. We also found that the owner of the site was there with them but managed to escape with the others. Now this is all happening within the context of phase 2 Operation Halt. 401 soldiers deployed for the 4th phase. The Ghana Armed Forces has revealed that a total of 401 men of all ranks have been deployed for the 4th phase of Operation Halt Part 2. In a press release signed by the Minister for Information, Kojo Ponkroma, he says the 4th phase of the operation, which has already commenced, is aimed at removing all persons and logistics involved in mining from water bodies. Now, let's give you 2 final things on this. Occupy Ghana is not too happy with the burning of the excavator. So in a statement they released, they've waded into the controversy. According to them, they say the president knows he's wrong and that no interpretation of the clear language of his government's own 2019 amendment supports the current ban on site policy. And this is why we find the go-to-court challenge unfortunate. It is a bet on the factor of time and expense that ordinary Ghanaians would have to spend in fighting in court to allow the government to perpetrate this palpable illegality and grave unconstitutionality. Yesterday, this was heavily debated on the show. We didn't come to conclusion. There are some who think it's a good idea for a starter, but not for a permanent solution. Others think the galamseyers are causing too much distraction. Let's just burn the excavator. So anyway, you can still send us your thoughts. It's something that's been debated. We are not going to end today. Let's go to police.
Yes, indeed. All right, page 3 on the Daily Guide. 5 policemen who pretended to arrest a businessman but ended up allegedly robbing him at gunpoint have been remanded by a circuit court in Accra. Now, they list their names. Do you want me to mention their names?
Why not?
All right. Wishwell, okay. Yes, Wishwell Odu. Lawal Ejapong. Evans Arawasi. Sena Kuvodo. Yes. They're all with the rank of General Constable. That's their rank. As well as Redeemer Agama.
They are fresh.
Yeah, he's a General Lance Corporal.
Okay.
All right. They pleaded not guilty yesterday. They've been charged with 3 counts of conspiracy to commit a crime, namely robbery. And the policemen have been accused of robbing Jeffrey McKeon Yoboa of 20,000 Ghana cedis. This happened on Monday. When a probe was instituted into the matter, they again attempted to bribe the investigator of the case, Detective Lance Corporal Confidence Fiagaji. They also tried to bribe him with 2,500 Ghana cedis to influence the case. Can you imagine? So yeah, the student or the businessman who was robbed lives at Charlie Boucher. He goes on to narrate his experience with them. He was forcibly removed from his vehicle.
We have details of his account here, if you don't mind. He said they threatened to torture me if I didn't pay 20,000 cedis. Victim of police extortions. Now, one of the persons who was forced by some police officers in Accra to pay an amount of money to them for no reason has opened up about his unfortunate ordeal. The victim is a student. Says he was in a ride-hailing service vehicle on his way to airport when the police officer stopped the vehicle on suspicion that he was an internet fraudster. He was arrested at the UPSA road by masked police officers on board an Operation Calm Life pickup. Silence. Operation Calm Life pickup. Friday, May 21, the day after my birthday celebration. All that happened was that the car was stopped by the police. I was on the phone. When the car stopped, one of the officers told me to remove everything in my pocket. It was 1,000 cedis on the phone. He asked me what I do. I said I was a student. Then he started asking me about my family and I answered. I asked him why he was asking me all these questions because I felt unsafe. So I decided to call my father and then one of them snatched my phone and hung the call. The officer then started going through my mail and went through the chats about the business I do with my girlfriend who is in the UK. He just said I have a lot of money, so I am into fraud. He handcuffed me and put me in the car. Further details suggest the police intercepted the vehicle. The police intercepted the vehicle the victim was in, drove him to Awudome Cemetery and threatened him at gunpoint. After several threats and demands, the victim ended up paying 20,000 cedis for fear of his life. We went through the airport and then they said I either take them to a hotel and give them 20,000 or I go to the police headquarters. But I insisted I have done nothing wrong. They started threatening me, so I started feeling unsafe and I said I'll give them money. So they set me free. They took me to Awudome Cemetery through circle. They called one guy who came with a phone. The police took the phone and asked me to transfer the money to the Momo number. So I transferred the money from my bank account to the Momo wallet. Then they left me and I took a taxi home. He told Michael Obodu.
They even need to add more charges because going through the guy's phone alone is also without a warrant. Plenty.
And then there are others. It's a lot of things. So it's a lot of things. We'll deal with that later on. What else are we talking about this morning, Kokwe? Okay,
this issue with the caregiver killing a baby. This is so disturbing. It's in the Daily Graphic, and obviously not to be alarmist, but you have to be careful who's taking care of our kids. Now, the police, they nabbed a caregiver at a crèche in Accra. Now, she killed an 11-month-old baby girl allegedly while feeding the baby. The caregiver's name is Clara Ayeni Ampa. She's 54. She was arrested after a closed-circuit television or CCTV camera installed in the room at the Happy Bloomers creche in Agbogba exposed what she did. The baby, Allegra Yaba Aka Mensa, was pronounced dead at North Legon Hospital. She was rushed there by managers of the creche. The CCTV video shows the victim, the baby, in a neatly decorated classroom with 2 other babies. One of the babies standing in a cot, the other was lying on the floor. Clara, the caregiver, left the classroom and returned with a cup and was cleaning the floor with a tissue. Then they saw her trying to force porridge down the baby's throat while holding the baby's hands behind her. So she was force feeding the child, pushing the baby's head into the cup as well to get her to drink the porridge. The baby appeared to be suffocating. She screamed and threw her legs. So the baby was trying to fight because she couldn't breathe. This lady did not stop. The baby ended up suffocating on the food, choking on the food.
What's wrong with the girl?
Charlie.
And CCTV captured this.
CCTV captured everything. So the managers of the crèche submitted the CCTV footage to the police, and that's how come they were able to arrest this lady.
But how does this happen?
Tragic. So tragic.
Wow. Anyway, VW. You want to talk about land grabbing, but before that, I want to talk about the VW issue. So there's a story the president is talking about protecting local business. Give us some details.
President whose investors vows to protect investments in the automobile industry. So the president Nana Addo Dankwa has pledged the government's commitment to support Volkswagen automobile company to succeed in Ghana. He said the government would protect the investments made by the company and indicated that the government would place orders from them as part of its commitment. This is when the chairman and managing director of VW Group, South Africa, Dr. Robert Sisek, expressed, he visited and,
All right, so that's okay. What about this story about East Legon land grab? If you can just give us
land grab in East Legon, Charlie. Land grab in East Legon, and people are pointing fingers at others. And then this is the new weekend crusading guide. And then you also have Nungwa's 2 cautions and crutches on Oyibi lands.
Does Oyibi belong to Nungwa?
Well,
okay, so let's get the details of the land grab one.
The land grab. An ex-military officer, W01 Wanda Amemelu, is accusing the managing director of Irata Hotel, Eddie Kusiankuma, of forcibly taking his land situated at Shiashi East Legon in Accra, which he acquired and has occupied for over 38 years. Charlie?
When you get to the notice that they've spoken to both sides, because the man also says he got the land from a legitimate source. So I'm not too sure if you can call it land grab. It's more like a land dispute. Do you understand? Because he's basically saying that I spoke to this guy.
Something very interesting happening. So most people would have bought their lands legitimately at the time they did. But the ownership of the land itself, I'm talking about the original ownership of the land itself, in most of these areas are already being contested. So you have lands on the Spentex area, where your house is, that general area into the Dodoa area. So you have the rift between Teshi and Nungwa. You have La and Teshi, So, and some of these land cases have been in court for almost 30 years. So while the processing is going on, you see some other people pass behind and sell. Now, by the time the court final judgment comes,
the person has reached roofing level.
Yes. Oh no, some people are actually living there. Some people are actually living in their houses, but the original ownership may have changed.
So in that case, what do you do? Do you then go and bring the house, or you pay compensation?
Well, what I have experienced in Ghana is that the new owners wrote to everyone and added copies of the Supreme Court judgment that we are the new owners, so come and renegotiate.
So you pay.
And pay. I think that should be the way to.
Instead of going to demolish the house.
How do you demolish?
Somebody lives in that place and go and demolish
and then at the time they bought the property, it was legitimate. They bought from the right.
Let me give you 2 other headlines quickly. Blackwell has dragged the president to parliament for allegedly borrowing 2.8 million on private jet trips. Now, the MP for North Tongue says he's filed an urgent question in parliament over what he considers wasteful expenditure on the president's foreign travels. He alleges the president spent an amount of 2.8 million on his recent travels to only South Africa and France using the services of a private jet. Now, the Airbus, owned by Acropolis Aviation based in Farnborough and registered as a G-Kelt, is the most luxurious and expensive in the Acropolis fleet. Now, he accused the president of blowing the money to satisfy his insatiable appetite and comfort at the expense of the suffering masses. Now, he is a ranking member of Foreign Affairs Committee. Asked in an interview if he could prove beyond reasonable doubt that the president indeed abandoned the Falcon jet and chartered a private flight for his trips, he said, "I can confirm on authority." So Parliament is going to take it up. We'll see how that ends.
All right. Can we talk about this pontoon in the Afram Plains very quickly?
Yes.
So the only pontoon on the Volta Lake serving communities in the Kwewu Afram Plains in the eastern region has been running on one engine instead of two for the past year. It's on a single engine because one of the engines got damaged a year ago. Usually crossing the lake from one end to the other takes about 20 minutes on two engines, but now the engine is the journey is about 40 minutes. Some of the passengers also resort to using canoes to cross the lake, but with strong winds and currents, it's very, very dangerous. On February 15th this year, they had a terrible experience when the strong wind moved the ferry to the other side of the lake. All the passengers were stranded. The drivers couldn't go anywhere, so they were there for 3 days before another pontoon was dispatched from Akosombo to rescue
Why is it
them.
so difficult to fix our water travel? We have a nice water lake.
Well, I don't think it's just water travel, it's transportation. Transportation. Every concentration is on road transport. I mean, we have a large stretch of coastal land from Aplao to Axim, and we don't have internal transportation through the sea.
All the time road.
All the time.
And the pressure on the Accra Cape Coast Road.
Charlie?
Look, for another 10 years, we can never resolve the traffic from Weja to Kaswa. We'll just keep shifting it.
Yeah.
The sea is there looking at us.
Shifting cultivation. That was the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News.